Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we dig right into a tool that has changed our relationship. It is Code Word. It is a system to pause and reflect instead of escalate.
So when I say burnt toast, it's for me. And I'm saying, EJ, at this moment, I can no longer function. I've got to go take care of myself. Pausing is so much more effective than pushing through.
So stay tuned. We're going to break it all down. We're going to give you an exact structure to improve your relationship.
You're prioritizing safety, emotional safety, over winning an argument. Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation podcast. I am Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin. And this is an exciting episode because it it really brings us in some ways back to how this whole crazy adventure we've gone on together professionally and as a couple and emotionally began.
It's Code Word, right? We've mentioned it in many of our episodes, but I don't think we've really gone through and talked about it in depth. And Code Word was one of the very first things. This was before EJ and I even started our practice together or anything. I came up with this thing because I was not being my best self in very stressful moments. And I just said to EJ, I'm going to use this word. And that just means I need a timeout. And that kind of started, it worked. And then it saved our relationship. I truly feel that that's true. And then it started our whole idea of how do we help other couples? Because this cool thing worked. And now look at us, 8 years later, 9 years later? I don't even know. 9 years later. Wow.
Yeah. And so this is Code Word with a little byline here, how to pause before things escalate. And I think
hit the pause button.
Yeah, it's not an entirely novel thing, right? Because a lot of times we'll have couples we work with that they're like, oh, we've tried timeouts. And what we think is different and is extremely important here is this is about not just pausing, but having a process after the pause of not just we're just stopping, but instead pausing, coming apart in a mindful way, doing things that will actually evolve the situation in a positive way, then coming back together. So it's a whole process.
And the idea is to gain more awareness around what's happening when we're triggered or when we're out of our window of tolerance, which we'll get into later in this podcast. But I didn't want to be a rageful, irritated, god-awful person in those moments, but I was. And I just said, this isn't who I am. How do I take a pause? And that's exactly what we started to do. So again, we want to go through this in depth, how to pause conflict before it escalates. Again, it's going to help create emotional safety within yourself, right? That your nervous system can handle difficult feelings and within your relationship. And what a great way to model this if you do have children, right? Hey, I'm going to use my code word right now because I'm just not going to be able to be my best self, but I'm going to come back. So let's kind of go into the framework and then.
Well, the first thing I think we want to do is we wanted to share a briefly sort of an example of a couple who used this well. And
other than us?
Other than us, yeah. And I'm just going to keep it very a lack of specificity, but it was a couple who had a significant amount of conflict. They got into arguments a lot. They would get into arguments a lot, and then what would happen was they wouldn't solve it. They would fracture eventually, they would pull apart, but then they wouldn't come back and discuss it. They maybe wouldn't even talk for days. And it was just a very destructive dynamic. And so what we did was we helped them create a code word and a process to go with it. And so they had this system that we're going to describe in a bit. And it started off where it was just a way to stop them and pull apart before they said really negative things to each other. It was problematic because it was one person who wanted to break away and and really never come back to discussing it. And the other person felt very much frustrated by the separation because they wanted resolution. But what we did was we gave them this framework to stop the conflict before it escalates. And then what we did was we started off with an agreed amount of time apart where they did certain things and then would come back together. And it started where it was like long. It was like many hours. But then we slowly got them to the point where they were coming back together within an hour or so. And so what it eventually led to was they stopped having arguments where they would both do or say things that they regretted. They developed a process of accountability and understanding what was going on. They came back together more quickly, and then they found resolution. And it took a bit. It was a process. This was not like this isn't a like fix thing tomorrow. It's a create a new trend with a system that restructures the way you did conflict. And in the end, it had a pretty profound effect on their relationship.
And I love, because code word is, it's about emotion regulation at an individual level, right? And there's science behind this, right? Because Dr. Dan Siegel is all about the window of tolerance, that if we're operating outside of our window of tolerance, that nothing good comes out of that, because we are usually in that flight, fight, freeze, fawn mode. And we're not thinking clearly. Our body is not equipped to handle emotions. We're not regulated. And so there is science behind why this is so important. And to learn how to regulate oneself when triggered is everything.
Yeah. And when we say regulate, what we're talking about is like when you are activated, when you or your partner is activated, when you're using Siegel's language, when you're out of your window of tolerance, your cardiovascular system is pumping, you're neurologically, you're firing way too fast, you're cognitively not seeing things clearly. You're in a state where it's almost impossible to communicate in healthy, intentional ways with one another.
And I think a lot of couples want to like just push through this really uncomfortable moment, but pausing is so much more effective than pushing through. So here we go. Are we ready to start our framework?
Absolutely.
So how to use code word effectively? Because trust me, we have had couples that do not use it effectively, and they actually use it as a weapon. Like, you need to use your code word. We're going to unscramble all of that, because this is about, how do I know when I'm out of my window of tolerance where I can't be my best self? And how do I use a code word for myself to let my partner know I'm not in a good place right now? I'm going to go take my little time away, and then I'm going to come back when I'm ready. Okay. So, it's a framework to avoid dysregulation. And there's going to be like 5 parts to it. The first part is how to recognize when to use it. And then how long to separate, before you guys get to come back together. What to do during that separation. It's not like, still like, I'm so mad that they did this. It's like, how do I actually grow from this? Understand what's happening in my body. What is the trigger here? How to manage it if kids are present, and then how to come back together after the break and really build that emotional safety with each other and let each other know, like, in that moment, this is what was happening, but now I can come back. I'm in my window of tolerance. And it's actually just like, it's gold. It really is gold.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the first thing we want to focus on is the how to recognize when to use it, right? And for me, that is about understanding when you are activated. And so it could look differently for different people. Like, it could be very like cognitively based. It could be like, I know I'm outside of my window of tolerance when my thoughts feel rapid, when maybe I'm thinking certain things, like, I can't believe this. This is bullshit. Yeah. I'm so pissed. I can't, so it could be just that you recognize you're out of your window of tolerance when certain things are going on mentally for you.
And I just FYI, EJ and I are going to go through this ourselves, like after we kind of explain all of it. So you'll actually have a really great working model to talk about this and to develop your code word with your person.
It could be physically.
Yeah.
It could be when I can feel my heart pumping out of my chest, when I feel a lot of tension in my hands, when my jaw is tight, when I'm pacing. It could be like you notice something physically going on. And then the last thing you might recognize is it could be very emotion based, that you could be somebody who's really aware of your own emotions. And you could be like, when I'm feeling anger, when I'm feeling high levels of frustration, when I'm feeling anxious, you could identify like, what are the emotions that I feel, which mean I'm out of my window of tolerance, which means I'm not going to be able to communicate in a healthy way.
Yeah. And then you kind of recognizing all of those signs when really paying attention to your body. And then you're kind of making an agreement with your partner, right? Because this is like, hey, this is going to be our code word and here's going to be our framework around it, is like how long to separate. And I feel like it's different for everybody. I mean, it only takes us a couple of minutes actually to get back into a regulated place, which is awesome. However, couples usually need longer bits of time. So whether it's 90 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe you had a wicked fight at the end of the night and you call out your code word and maybe you revisit in the morning, that's fine. But you guys kind of have to play around with this. Like for us, mine is around 30 minutes. That's like my time that I feel like I can reflect and I can really be back in my grounded state again. And it might change over time, but you guys get to come up with an agreement. Usually it's between 12 hours and less though.
Yeah. And the thing is this might take, maybe you're able to sort of navigate creating this code word, this time apart as just a couple. Maybe you need a therapist or a coach because of the fact that there's a common dynamic where one person needs more than the other.
Yeah.
And it feels almost like somebody's losing, that like, oh, I only need a half hour, but you need 3 hours. And so you do sort of have to negotiate this, like, okay, what is the agreed like time that kind of meets in the middle? And then is there also the agreement that we're working towards eventually it getting shorter and shorter?
The next piece we're going to talk to is really important because when you're using your code word to take a break, this is not avoiding it. You're intentionally pausing for self-regulation. So the third piece is what to do during that break. And obviously, like it can be many different things. I find, right? Music helps me. Sometimes I like to do the Tarah rain technique or breathing. You can put on a 5-minute meditation, but it's you can write down a cognitive restructuring technique, but it's anything that's going to help you understand what's happening and calm your body down in that time that you're separating.
I think it's the most important part, other than just like pausing, is what do we do with that pause? And we're going to get deeper and give you some specific tools around that.
Now, how to manage this if kids are present? Like, first of all, I feel like this is such a good role modeling. Like they start to feel tension or some heat because mom and dad or parents are fighting or arguing. And then one parent calls out code word. What a great, like, hey, I'm not my best self. Here's my code word, whatever you want to say. I'm going to go regulate and come back and move with intention. So I feel like it's just different. Like if the kids are younger, if the kids are older.
Yeah. I mean, it's important because you need to have the time or space to come back to that difficult discussion. And if the kids are around, it's probably not an appropriate conversation for them. So you might need to sort of build into the structure of your code word protocol of like, okay, what do we do if the kids are already in bed or the kids aren't there, or if we just don't have kids? And what do we do if kids are? I think Tara is 100% though correct, is I love that role modeling of the kids see that the tension's high and they see that we have a tool that keeps us from sort of devolving and it's spinning out of control.
Yes. Well, and it's really cute because like during homework time, like our daughter has her own code word when she's getting too full. So she'll use it. Hers is Swift, Taylor Swift. But what a great thing. She's recognizing when she's getting overstimulated. So she uses her code word during homework. Like it's just like it's good for everybody. But anyway, the final piece of it is how to come back together in a way that feels really good, even though it's probably still uncomfortable, right? You're going to share some things about why you were triggered, but it's not about coming back and like, you did this and made me feel this way. It's like, hey, this is what happened for me when I went and took my time out. This behavior created this. And so it's just, there's certain language, there's certain ways to say it and come back to one another. That's going to be really important because you're going to build that emotional safety in your relationship, which is what couples want, right?
Yeah. I mean, the coming back is so important because if you're not careful, you can come back and unintentionally pick up right where you left off and continue to elevate the conflict. And so it's really important to be intentional about that.
So what not great way to really model this than to go through the entire thing. You will see it does not take long. It might take you guys longer. We've done this a few times. So this is an exercise that all couples that go through relationship renovation, whether it's at home or in office, they have to choose their code word. And we always say pick a code word that feels really neutral. Maybe it's even kind of funny. Ours is burnt toast, right? There's a funny story behind that. And so and if you want to have each of your own code words, I think that's okay too.
Yeah. I think most of the time couples pick names that are a little bit playful because, honestly, that's sort of the intention here is breaking up a moment of like activity and something that feels kind of yucky. And so most couples pick something funny-ish, Jello, whatever. They pick some word that doesn't have any sort of connotation that it's about the argument, like ours, burnt toast. It has nothing to do with like the arguing. It's a metaphor that worked for us.
Well, for me, it was, was so busy after the twins were born, and I would keep forgetting about my toast. And so I'd go toast it again and I'd toast it again. And then it was finally burnt. And I laugh at it now because I'm just like, oh my gosh, EJ, I didn't even have time to eat. When I start to get mad at you when you walk through that door, I'm just going to say burnt toast. Like it just paralleled like how freaking crazy and exhausted I was after the twins were born.
Yeah. So you pick a word that just is maybe a little playful, that isn't going to be weaponized. It's just a short, succinct word that both of you agree is your cue to pause.
Yeah. So the first thing is our code word, it is burnt toast. Make sure you guys agree upon the code word, right? So when I say burnt toast, it's for me. And I'm saying, EJ, at this moment, I can no longer function. I've got to go take care of myself, right? That's when I say burnt toast, that's what I mean. I'm not telling you to go say burnt toast. I'm not using it as a weapon. I'm not saying, wow, you look really dysregulated right now. You need to call out your code word. No. So it's all about individual accountability. Okay.
So then the next part is like you pick that word and now it's making an agreement about what you do, right? Which is whatever discussion we're in stops. And you might need to be a little bit nuanced in like, I don't say burnt toast and charge out and slam the door. It's like, if I say burnt toast, I'm going to do my best to burnt toast. We both know, okay, that means we pause. And that means in our case, we're like, we need to get out of each other's sort of sphere so that we're not triggering each other anymore.
Yeah. Like 8 out of 10 times. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care if you say burnt toast. I'm so angry, right? That will happen. It's okay, right? The idea is that like, gosh, even 8 out of 10 times you're using something to get more regulated for yourself, That's so important. And there's also this is important. It doesn't necessarily have to be about you and your partner. Like, let's just say EJ comes home and I'm super overstimulated because the dog got sick, the twins are fighting over homework, and I'm just zapped. I can say burnt toast and EJ is like, okay, girl, I got you. I'm going to take the kids. Like he helps support me in that moment because he knows I'm overstimulated. So it could be about between us, but it also could just be environmental where your partner knows what to do. Like he knows how to, get the stimulation away from you, or hey, hun, go close your door in the bedroom. I've got this. I'll prep dinner. So it's also a way that your partner can support you. So then you want us, how long will the breaks be, right? Again, ours are 30 minutes-ish. EJ, I don't know if you need longer. But again, everybody might be different, but it's agreed upon time. Because you can't rush everybody's process. Everybody's very unique in their own way.
Yeah, it's just saying like, hey, it feels safe to know when we're coming back together. So if I say burnt toast, we know like, okay, in a half hour, we're going to check back in.
And see what just happened and just like, yeah, talk about it. Okay, what are the signs that we each need to use it? I'll let you go first and then.
I mean, the signs for me that I got to use it is when I'm stuck in sort of a cognitive path. I'm having thoughts that are negative about Tarah. If I'm thinking,
how dare you?
I can't believe this. Okay. Why did she do this? What's her problem? Here we go again. Those to me are signals that I am in a place where I'm judging her. I'm not focusing on chilling out myself. I know like I'm probably going to communicate ineffectively. So for me, it's very thought-based.
For me, it's very physical. Like I feel heaviness in my head when I start to get like resentful or sad, or it's all in my body. I'm very good now. It used to totally hijack me, but I'm very good now at recognizing when there's pressure in my head or my heart starts to race. I know I have to call code word. I'm getting out of my window of tolerance. There's too much stimulation, or I'm really having some uncomfortable feelings that I'm triggered and I don't quite know what to do with them.
So for you and your partner, you're trying to figure out, it could be an expression. It could be like when I yell, when I know I raise my voice, then I need to call code word for myself.
Yeah.
So just figure out for you, when is the appropriate time? When's the right time for you to call it? How will you know that?
And then you're going into like, well, how will I regulate this, right? Like what happens now? I'm taking this little break. And I think it's different for everybody, and there's going to be different things that you're using. Sometimes I just need to like, if it's just overstimulation with the kids, I just need to sit down and like read a magazine for 10 minutes and I'm good to go. Sometimes it's EJ did something that really triggered me. So I have to go through what we call the RAIN process. It's a Tarah Brock, recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And I have to be like, what just happened? What were the feelings and the thoughts and the behaviors, and what beliefs did it trigger? And because then I get to come back with that and let EJ know, like, gosh, here's what happened. It wasn't really about, that tone. I was just feeling unsafe in that moment. So I think just try out different things. There's music. I love listening to a little Miles Davis, reading a book. There's journaling. There's so many different ways to be able to get back into your window of tolerance. And again, every situation for code word might be different, where you can use different tools.
Yeah. I think the key thing here is, and I think it's the mistake that people make, especially before they've approached it sort of in the way that we're laying out, is they pause, they walk away, and then they just relaunch into the thoughts. It would be like if I called code word and I walked away and I was like, I can't believe Tarah did this. She did that. And then again, she said this. I mean, what is she thinking? I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like I can't, if I stay in my thoughts about something external, which I have no control over, I'm not going to come back in a good place. So for me, it's like you have to have a process that holds a mirror up.
Yeah. What is your process?
Where you're looking at. Mine is the cognitive restructuring that we do, is looking at, okay, what are my thoughts? Okay, get out of those and now into what am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling frustration, anger, sadness, loneliness. Okay, what am I doing? I'm just getting madder and madder. And I'm like, I'm trying to prove her wrong. Okay. And then, okay, well, like, what is the negative, what is the negative core belief? Like, what is coming up for me? Well, I just feel like no matter what I do, I get it wrong. Okay, what does that remind me of? Well, it reminds me of this time and this time. Okay, let me go farther back. Like, okay, it reminds me of being a kid and feeling like no matter what I did, I was always in trouble. Okay, what do I want to believe about myself? That I get it right, that I really care, that I love Tarah, that I'm just really frustrated. So then I've had a process where I've naturally sort of like calmed myself down, and I've looked inward, and I understand that it's not that she told me my shirt was wrinkly, and I can get out of like that blame game with her, and I can go like, I just felt like it triggered some insecurity. I felt like I want to be, cared for and loved. And I just really struggle with that at times.
And that's, because we're going to come to that when we talk about when we're returning and how to share that with each other. But yes, just like.
But I have to know that before I can come back to share it.
Exactly. So it's having that opportunity, that process that works for you around understanding what just happened, why it's happening, and how to kind of just nurture yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Nurture yourself at the very end. And, and then again, if there's kids around, you just want to make sure, like, let's just say I'm overstimulated. Like EJ knows to like, I'm going to take the kids and, like take them outside or go on a walk with the dog. You guys can kind of triage in those moments depending on circumstances.
Well, and having a plan for when you come back too. Because if the argument that we just got into and we called code word happened in the kitchen where we were cooking and the kids were yelling and screaming and the dogs wanted food, probably not a good idea to come back in that environment. Maybe we have the plan that when we come back together after a moment like this, we're always going to do it outside. We're going to do it with nobody else around. We're going to do it in a peaceful place where we're not overstimulated. Having that the more you have a plan, the higher the likelihood that things are going to resolve themselves in a more positive way.
Yeah. And then the idea of just having older kids and being like, hey, can we just tell you guys what happened? And this is what we did. Again, you're like modeling how to have healthy regulation within relationships and not take it out on each other. That's kind of huge. Okay. All right. So how do we return and reconnect? This is like so important, right? I'm going to kind of let you start off.
I think it's important that you come back offering a opening up of your heart to your partner about what was happening for you. That you avoid, when you did this, that you avoid talking about what triggered your movement out of the window of tolerance, but instead share what was happening internally. I was really upset. I could feel my heart pumping. I got lost in my head. And really what I was feeling was this. And maybe even, and I take responsibility for the fact that I did this, that I focus almost zero on what Tarah did, because that's hers to figure out. That's hers to look at. That I just open up about me, because I can't, that's the only thing I can control. And it's what I want her to be able to connect with.
Well, that because, right, we trigger each other. Like we can talk about what the situation was. Like, was it, that like you came home and didn't say hi to me? Like you can talk about the behavior that happened that was triggering. But then you talk about how you have this process to it, which is why we do our cognitive restructuring, because there's like a process. What were the thoughts? What were the feelings? What were the behaviors? What negative core beliefs were triggered in that moment? So that way, when you're coming to me and be like, gosh, Tarah, I got to let you know when like you didn't respond to me or when you left the room, that behavior of you leaving the room, like I started to feel anxious and frustrated and right. And then I was thinking like, wow, she always walks away. Like it gives me ideas around what triggers you so I can better understand what's happening for you. And then I get to know you better. But how many of us do this? Like it's really hard. And for me, I will write it down. Like we have a whole process. So if you really want to know the cognitive restructuring process, please reach out and I will send it to you because we want to help as many people as possible. But I write it on my phone in my notepads. So it's like a little journaling thing, which already helps me regulate. And then when I come back to EJ, I have it all written down and I can share it with him. Or if I'm just not ready yet, I'll send it to him and then he can read it and he'll be like, oh, thank you. So there's like lots of different ways to come back and talk about it with each other, especially if it was the other person that triggered code word. That's where it can be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And then I think there has to be a certain level of flexibility, right? Is that, every uncomfortable moment that you might use code word might be different. And there might be a time where like Tarah and I are able to kind of sort through it, come back together within a half hour. And there might be a time where we're like, hey, we're both tired. It's 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. We're going to revisit this tomorrow. We're not even going to like risk that we could escalate again and sort of re-traumatize each other or say something that we regret, that we can be flexible about it.
And we do have, I don't know if you've had this, EJ, but we've had couples where like, well, I use my code word, but they don't. That doesn't matter. Like the hope is that both of you try to, regulate yourselves in triggering situations. But even if just one person uses their code word because they're not going to be their best selves in that moment, that changes the outcome already. Right? So what normally happens will not happen because at least one person decided, there's nothing I could say right now that's going to help the situation. So I'm going to go let my blood pressure come down, let my heart rate come down. I'm going to understand what just happened. So that's okay. Like, don't wait for the other person to use their code word. Like, this is all about individual self-care for the sake of the relationship as well.
And I hope you notice, like, in the way in which we're talking about it with like a lot of like reflection and sort of a gentleness. And that's the vibe you want to begin to embody in these moments, is like, this is actually sad. Like, even though this is an argument and one of us maybe is really pissed off, it's really sad that we're disconnected. And so, wow, let's like really approach this in a way where like we're sort of recognizing in each other that we're both deserving of love and we're both like, we want to treat each other better. We just don't know how to sometimes.
And this is like, you're prioritizing safety, emotional safety over winning an argument. Like, that's really what's important here. So many people are just like, I'm going to win this one. I'm going to let them know I'm going to have the last word. No, you doing this is so powerful because you're saying, I would rather have an emotionally safe relationship than freaking win whatever this argument is. Because it's not really winning. It's
just righteousness. And a lot of times of like, I just want to be right. Well, I mean, that's not great for your relationship. It's, proving you were right. And that's what a lot of couples feel, is like they're like trying to be like, no, I just need to tell you that this is what happened, and you're just not accepting that this is what happened. But it always comes down to, in our experience, is some like deep wound got hit, some little tweak inside of you that goes into a deeper pain got hit. And if you can cultivate an empathetic way to talk to each other, you can take some accountability, you can open your heart to your partner, you can actually use moments like this conflict to become closer together.
And we always, like, we know we've helped like thousands of couples with code word, like, but share it on our Facebook or Instagram. Like, how did it help you? What is your code word? Like, it just kind of just gets everybody pumped. Like, code word is a really cool thing. And it's not just to use with a trigger with your partner. You can use it at work. You can use it with your kids. You can just use it when you're just getting anxious. Like, it's just a great way to regulate our nervous system and let us know, like, we can handle this. We can handle all of this. This is okay. I am okay.
Well, I mean, this is fun. It's fun to share this tool because we know it works. It's worked for us. It's worked with a lot of couples, right? And so, we will, in the show notes, we'll lay out some extra tools. We'll throw them in there. Try it out.
It might feel awkward at first, but that's okay.
Well, it's like anything. It's
remember
a new
when
skill.
I said burnt toast, mofo?
I remember a few things.
I mean, we don't always get it right, but over the years, right, we've perfected our code word for the most part.
The more you practice it, the better the tool becomes.
Yeah, but just having something to get back into your window of tolerance. So again, reach out. We are here to help.
Yeah, send us some feedback. Send us your code words. That would be awesome. We'd love to get a collection of all your code words. If you have any more specific questions, just DM us on on social media, Instagram, Relationship Renovation.
All the stuff. We always love when you share our podcast, rate our podcast. Love our community, love the emails we get from you guys. So thank you so much for listening. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, develop your code word. We want to know what it is. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.